Karoline Leavitt is a complete unknown. Her voice quivered and her eyes welled up with tears as she faced the cameras. It caught everyone off guard. On this occasion, a change occurred. We had become accustomed to her strong and outspoken personality, but when she revealed something shocking about her husband, she suddenly became fragile and emotional. What happened? A breakup? A life-altering decision? Or something completely out of the ordinary? As she spoke, everyone in the room fell silent. At long last, everyone is hearing the truth. Karoline Leavitt's path to fame wasn't exactly the standard. Neither did she hail from an influential family or have a predetermined path ahead of her. A little New Hampshire town was the girl's hometown. She came from a long line of ice cream parlor and used truck dealers. Even at that early stage, Karoline stood out. She had a lot of ambition, was very vocal and driven. That passion only grew once I arrived at university. While her classmates were cramming for exams, Karoline was making headlines for her support of Trump's policies in a series of powerful opinion pieces and for launching the school's only radio club. She was more than simply an opinion leader. She also made sure her voice was heard. They were also acknowledged. She went straight into right-wing politics because she was so famous. She interned at Fox News before landing a job in the Oval Office. At that establishment, she was directly employed by Kayleigh McEnany. After rising to prominence as communications director for Representative Elise Stefanik, she became a formidable political message strategist. It is not easy for young people to make their voices heard in this world, but Karoline did just that and then some. But today we're witnessing a new side of her. Stepping into the spotlight to break some major news about her husband, Karoline exudes confidence and strength. She may be weeping, and trust me, not a single soul anticipated this. Like the experience she had following her election, Karoline's career was not without its ups and downs. There was a flurry of activity in the press room, and the air was thick with uncertainty. Listening to the youngest White House press secretary in history wasn't exactly a dream job for the audience. Others worried that she would be too cautious, too scripted, and make a fool of herself. Most people assumed she would be anxious and frightened. It became immediately apparent that she was not going to adhere to the established rules when she spoke up. For a first day, her meeting was quite lengthy, lasting 47 minutes. What got people talking, though, was not only the length, but also her reaction to it. There was no attempt to sidestep difficult questions or provide well-worded responses that were ultimately unanswered. She chose to take a more assertive approach, confronting the press directly. She disputed their claims, exposed their bias, and established her authority, rather than merely acting as a spokesperson. Even NBC's Peter Alexander did not hold back in asking her probing questions, as if he anticipated an error on her part. She never backed down, spoke with assurance, and never gave the impression that she was afraid. Those who were skeptical entered anticipating an absence of expertise. Rather, they observed an expert who was clearly competent in her field. This was not an accidental occurrence. Before ever stepping foot on that stage, she had spent a considerable amount of time preparing for it. In the Granite State at St. Anselm College, she began her studies of the game and the interplay between the media and politics. The knowledge she possessed helped her land a position as assistant press secretary in the Trump administration. She went on to serve as Trump's national press secretary in 2024. Along for the ride wasn't going to cut it. She had to figure things out, adapt, and prove herself in a very challenging political environment. She stood out, but not only because of her self-assurance, but also because of her strategy. Changes in the television industry were visible to her. Podcasters, social media celebrities, independent voices, and non-traditional writers were gaining traction while traditional news sources were slipping. More individuals than ever before were being reached by these groups. She embraced rather than resisted the shift. She spared no effort in her pursuit of consensus among the traditional news outlets. She went where the people were already paying attention and spread the government's message. The White House altered its communication with the public in every manner. It wasn't just a new face on stage, she made it plain right away that she was switching jobs. Writers from the same old media groups who asked the same questions for years made up the majority of the White House press briefings. With Leavitt at the helm, everything shifted. Out of nowhere, prominent conservatives, influential podcasters, and independent media voices were given a voice. It was a shocking move that caught the powerful politicians off guard. It was crystal clear in her head. The White House ought to pay attention to the millions of Americans who have stopped watching traditional news. Although not everyone was a fan of her approach, it was effective. Her first appearance on national television was the most memorable of her career, according to White House Communications Director Stephen Chung. Just hearing that one thing sent DC into a frenzy. Traditional methods, such as having the main news outlets report the story, were ineffective. Naturally, some people were not fond of it. There was a lot of controversy surrounding Leavitt even before she was selected. Not only did her political career garner attention, but so did her private life. She had been wed to real estate magnate Nicholas Rio, who was 59 years old for 32 years. Was it love, people wondered? Is this all there was? Some people didn't find it scandalous or even noteworthy. The sound was indifferent to her. There were more pressing matters that required her attention. At that moment, everything changed. On July 13, 2024, Trump met with a group in Butler, Pennsylvania. Electricity was the sensation. After that, booms erupted, disarray reigned. Trump took a bullet to the head. Many agents from the Secret Service were present. Those in agreement let out a scream. He stood up despite his injuries. It shook the nation and altered Leavitt's life in every way imaginable. I was also struck by something else. She didn't join the throng that day. Her presence in Washington was non-existent. In fact, she was rocking her son to sleep at home when he was 3 days old. The meeting was no different from any other political gathering in her eyes. Suddenly, she found herself paralyzed with fear as she witnessed the unfolding of history unfold before her eyes. The video looped endlessly. Like a freight train, its weight struck her. In addition to fighting for political rights, she was a new mother cradling this fragile, helpless life. In her heart, she understood that this was about more than just Trump. It was about the future as well. Unlike other new mothers, she thought of something completely out of the ordinary. In a message to her husband 4 days later, she declared, "I'm going back." She only allowed herself that much. Just 4 days after giving birth, she resumed fighting. The populace was taken aback. What gave it to her? So what if she didn't? Even though her baby was only a week old, her body was still improving. Leavitt, on the other hand, had no doubt. The president came dangerously close to death while serving our nation. The least I could do was get back to work. Her statement was met with admiration and even a little bit of humor from those around her. However, she felt compelled to do it. A statement, not merely another wild political event, was what Trump's triumph meant to her. It proved that being strong, determined, and stubborn could help you stand tall when others attempted to bring you down. If he could survive a gunshot and continue fighting, why did she give up? It wasn't easy to return to politics while caring for a baby, but let's be honest, just moments ago, she was engaged in an argument with reporters on stage at the White House. In the following second, she began to question whether her child had any recollection of her appearance. Every day, she has to leave her child and it hurts. Her words were, "It does break your heart." Still, did she ease up a bit? Fail miserably. Doing that was simply not in her character. Truthfully, her spouse Nicholas Rio served as her sly instrument. While she dealt with the mayhem, the guy who hated being the focus of attention kept everything together. He was at home in Washington, D.C., tending to their son and making sure he ate constantly. It would be wonderful if he hadn't already plotted his elopement from the crib. The business he worked for allowed him to rise to new heights that others failed to notice. Both she and the nation were shaken by the assassination attempt, which served as a wake-up call. As a result, she was able to reawaken her memory of the reasons she had set out on this journey. sacrificed things that most people would consider basic, and refused to give up. In her interview with the press just days after one of the most terrifying political events of our time, she wasn't merely remaining composed, she was acting even more composed than before. Unbeknownst to anyone, beneath her composed and controlled exterior, there was a more personal drama unfolding. In addition to being a politician and a mother, she was about to make a statement about her husband that would shock everyone. She married Nicholas Rio, which caused people to wonder because politicians treat every relationship like a crime scene. But it wasn't about a career change or a political deal, unlike most power couple pairs in the nation's capital. They crossed paths at a political event, the type of stuffy, high-energy gathering where everyone pretends not to be tired while smiling, shaking hands, and generally being nice. She had achieved her goals and was content with her life. A wealthy real estate magnate named Rio, on the other side, shied away from politics. Not only did he not care about being in the news, he rarely spoke to the press either. Something clicked, though, when a mutual friend connected them. They were illogical when written down. Being in the limelight was her thing, and she was young and ambitious. In addition to being 32 years older, he disliked social media and was unconcerned about the current Twitter controversy. He was short on them. These days, a person's level of success is often measured by the number of Instagram followers they have. It was unprecedented for someone of his stature to lack a social media presence, including Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. However, they perceived equilibrium where others perceived discord. She was the dominant force, making waves wherever she went, while he was the reserved leader, excellent at keeping a watchful eye from a distance. Their bond was unusual, and it was the type that got people talking. It was either brilliant or completely lost on some people. They were successful, though. It was a common topic of conversation. Many people took to social media to express their strong opinions. Some people thought it was fake and accused it of being manipulative. With each photo she shared with Rio, the comments section became more cruel. "Is that your dad?" someone teased. Yet another person gave her a thrashing, saying, "Your husband could be your grandfather, but you judge everyone else." But it wouldn't sit well with her. There were no flowery justifications or fiery counter-arguments. A calm, unshakable faith was all that was present. She concluded, "He's my biggest fan, the best dad, and the best man I've ever met." The individuals who were under the impression that they could silence her by making her feel terrible were completely unprepared. She and Rio were leading their lives in secrecy on purpose, unaware that the internet was watching them. No elaborate displays or magazine covers, just the two individuals who were fully aware of their possessions. Even in their engagement, that rhythm was there. On Christmas Day 2023, they stayed in and did not do anything particularly fancy. It was as simple as that. He inquired, she responded. The following day, she posted a photo of Rio down on one knee. The photograph gleamed in the winter light like a precious gem. "I've never had a better Christmas. I am about to tie the knot with my ideal husband. No show and no fake emotion, just real happiness." Their nuptials were identical. While most famous people opt for elaborate ceremonies that garner media attention, theirs was far from that. Press, exclusives, and leaks from unidentified sources will not occur when the subject is out of the spotlight. She merely changed her bio to read wife rather than publishing a wedding announcement. Getting married obviously didn't slow them down. On the contrary, it accelerated their progress. Would you say she took on a particularly challenging political role? Yes. Was Rio's massive real estate empire continued in the same manner?